Welcome to the ExPack Podcast, your source for news regarding video games, esports, and everything media. Now, here are your hosts, Jacob and Dalton. What is up, people of the internet? We're finally back with a new ExPack. What's this thing called?
ExPack.
There it is.
The ExPack.
I think I was mixing ExPack and podcast together. The X Podcast, but that just sounds like we're talking about our exes.
Yeah,
So we're gonna cancel that right now before it even starts, and instead we're gonna talk about video games and stuff. So that's cool. Alright, yeah, we've been gone for a while. Well, you were legitimately gone for a while. You were with family for like a month. So that was why we didn't record during that time. And then when you got back, and then all this new stuff came out for different games, and we just kind of haven't done this. So here we are, and hopefully we'll get back in the swing of either weekly or bi-weekly, depending on how much news there is, really. And yeah, so to kick it off with some esports news, in the Counter-Strike scene, we just had I Am Taipei happen, and Mongols actually took the win over everyone else at the tournament, which was, I don't know if it was like the most surprising, but I think it was pretty surprising that they were able to best as many teams as they could, especially Renegades, in such a convincing manner. Machine Gun is ridiculously good at Counter-Strike, and it's pretty insane. But so by winning that means that they now get to go to IEM Katowice, which is really cool for them. You don't really hear about Mongolian teams all that often, so that's pretty cool.
You don't really hear about anything besides Swedish teams.
Yeah. I mean, Renegades was definitely the favorite going into the tournament, and they didn't do bad. They did really well. I mean, they made it to the finals and everything. But at the end of the day, Mongols took the win, so that's pretty cool for them. As well, we have the former Titan lineup of Extends, RPK, Shocks, Smiths, and Scream are now signing to G2 Esports. Or I'm sorry, do they not like being called G2 Esports? I don't remember. I remember it's oh man, why can't I think of his name? Ocelot, who used to play League of Legends, is one of the owners of G2, and he always corrects people when they call them the wrong thing.
Isn't there don't they have something after G2 that they call themselves?
I don't know. I can't remember. That's what I was wondering, but
I saw it, but I don't
no. I see on the league site it does say G2 Esports, so maybe
Okay.
that's what it is. Okay, which I was gonna say, if you may recognize them, because right now they are 5-1 in the EU LCS, doing quite well. Their mid laner is perfect. No, not really, but he's really good.
He's pretty good.
But yeah. So now Titan, I guess that brand wasn't gonna be continuing, so they have a cool opportunity now to play with a brand that's obviously wanting to get into Counter-Strike, which a lot more of these are. Like we see Echo Fox, who just picked up a Counter-Strike team, with Mo and Sean Garris and a couple other people. I mean, so that would be kind of cool to see how this Titan lineup. Like, I don't really think it will change anything. I wouldn't imagine, but I mean, they haven't been quite the same Titan in the last year, but they're definitely still good players. So
It's kind of hard. I feel like it's kind of hard to judge CS:GO teams in comparison to, like, I mean, we follow League in depth pretty well too, and I don't know. For me, it just seems like you kind of never know what's going to happen from tournament to tournament with Counter-Strike. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
it's hard to make predictions.
But I mean, I think obviously the major thing, because it's a major, will be IEM Katowice, and we'll see what these lineups are really looking like there, and if any NA teams decide to show up or not. We'll see.
Hope so. Be nice.
Yeah.
Be nice.
But apart from that, in the League of Legends scene, we did just have the 2016 season start, and it's off to a roaring beginning, especially with certain teams. So the
That
biggest
TSM
thing,
lineup, though.
yeah, woo,
Am I right?
TSM,
Am
my
I right?
boys. Oh man, yeah. So this supposed TSM power team, not quite. Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, there's definitely expectations from the players. I don't know how much expectation there was as the team, just because a lot of the time when you just get a bunch of star players on a team, it doesn't really work out. So obviously they're still figuring out their kinks. On the opposite end of that, we have Immortals, who are currently 6-0, and have had like the 2 fastest LCS games ever in the last 3 weeks or whatever. And so the standings are Immortals obviously at the top for NA, and then CLG and Energy, both looking really, really good. Energy is just coming out of the gate and showing that they're really here to play, and CLG is doing an amazing job of also proving their worth in a majority of these games. And then I guess tied for 4th, we have TIP, and these are all teams that are at 3-3. We have TIP, Cloud9, Liquid, and TSM. Some of which is unexpected. Like TIP, they lost their first 2 games or 3.
I believe so.
I know they at least lost their first 2, and then everybody was like, okay, well, TIP is going to be 0-18 this season, whatever. But they clearly decided coming out of that, they were like, well, that's not going to work for us, because they've kind of stepped up their game, and they're showing up against teams that people might have thought that they would lose to, such as Liquid and Cloud9. So they're now 3-3, so that's pretty good for them. And then Cloud9, Liquid, and TSM are these established names that we see that are kind of struggling at this beginning of the season. TSM, like we said, has this powerful lineup, and they have, probably 3 of the best people in their roles in NA, but it's just something's not really working. And so we have to see what kind of improvements or what kind of adjustments that they're going to be making. And then Cloud9 was struggling with putting in Bunny Fufu and then having High, and they're winning a lot more with High in support, because he takes up that shot caller role, which is good for them. And then Liquid is just kind of, sometimes they do really well and sometimes they're kind of not there, and I think most of their wins are against not really the best teams, so we'll have to see how that turns out, I guess.
I think we're going to see Energy and Immortals keep climbing more than the other teams, honestly. Because if you look at the schedules that they've played recently, CLG is up there, and CLG, I really like everybody that's on that team. I'm still a CLG fan, but they're 4-2, but this last week they played the bottom 2 teams.
Right. So
this was kind of their free week in a lot of ways. And yeah, they looked really strong and everything. And honestly, what they have is they play the map really well and they control the game that way. But when you look at just off of pure mechanics and map control that Immortals has, and I think Energy to me is really their strong suit is as a team. What surprised everybody is just as a team, they're already playing really well together. Right. And I think right now that's what you're going to see pretty much dominate the leaderboards. And as far as the other big teams, like I think TSM will start to climb again. They've played harder people. They played Immortals, I think, the first week.
Well, they played CLG, I know, day 1, and then I can't remember who they played day 2. But it was either the first or second week they did.
The first week they played both Liquid and CLG. Yeah. And the second week they had to play Immortals. So, they've had so far a hard lineup, which means they'll get their free week coming up soon
Right.
enough. So it's still early enough that with the way Renegades and Echo Fox look, nothing against some of the players that are on those teams, but they're just they're gonna be at the bottom of the board.
Yeah, and that's what we're looking at right now. Is in eighth we have Dig at 2-4, and then we have tied for ninth. We have Renegades and Echo Fox at 1-5. And I think that this is essentially what we're going to be looking at. I think definitely Immortals and Energy are going to be at the top, probably top two. And then I feel like we're probably going to have TSM, Cloud9, and CLG fighting for the second spot. And then Impulse, Liquid will kind of be like, they could be up there, they could be falling, like who knows really with them. And then probably Dig, Renegades, and Echo Fox. But I guess like we'll have to see. But that's kind of what we're looking at right now, and definitely just some crazy ability being shown by Immortals, showing up every single game just ready to win, and they're just there and they're killing it in every aspect. So they're kind of exciting to watch right now, like how easy they make it look. It's both exciting and scary because I'm a TSM fan, so I'm like, oh gosh, like this is not like looking good for us. But who knows? Maybe that means that an NA team will show up at a international this year. Who knows? But yeah, and then in EU we have tied for first. We have G2 and H2K, who are both at 5-1. Both just really solid teams. H2K and Forgiven has been on the ball. That guy's crazy. And then G2 and Perks in the mid lane is absolutely just showing up this season. And then in tied for third, we have Vitality and Unicorns of Love, both at 4-2. Tied for fifth, we have Origin, Elements, and Fnatic, all at 3-3. And then we have Splice at 2-4, Roccat at 1-5, and Giants at 0-6. And so I don't really know if I don't really think that this is what was expected. I mean, we have Origin and Fnatic, these two that have been considered top tier teams, especially last year. I mean, Fnatic went undefeated in the split last year, and so obviously, but they lost two of their members, and then Origin as well. They have like this expectancy, I guess, because last year they did really well and they were in Worlds and all that. And then I don't know, like for me especially, I wasn't really expecting this from Vitality and Unicorns of Love. Like obviously, like they're good teams, but I wasn't really sure. And they've done pretty well, but I feel like they've had a couple of easy weeks as well. So we'll kind of have to see how that evolves over there. But I feel like it'll probably end up being G2, H2K, and then probably Origin and Fnatic after that. I feel like coming into the mid to end of the season. But we'll definitely just have to see how that rolls out. And yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you use a lot. I don't want to say more predictable, but I feel like the teams are a little closer matched, which I think is the surprising thing because for so long it's. Well, I say for so long, but the Origin really only played last year, right?
Yes.
They weren't a team before that. But
Right.
I mean, still, they came out and looked so strong, and then Fnatic is just, it's a household name. It's Fnatic. But,
Right.
roster swaps.
They've been
and
around
everything.
since the beginning, so yeah. And then I do just want to touch on LCK real quick. Over in Korea, Rocks Tigers is currently in first at 5-0. And then we have SKT, they're down at 4th, and Samsung is at 5th. But they have different, like, Jin Air has played 6 games, but KT Rolstar has only played 4, so it's kind of confusing. I'm not really sure how it works over there. But we'll definitely see more how that progresses and coming into the international, which teams come over. And also for IM Katowice, we have the league teams have been announced. We have the Kwaigu Reapers, which is currently the first place in China. They're at 5-0. And then we have Ever from Korea, which at least I'm pretty sure they're from the LCK. Maybe not, because I don't see them on their standings. I don't actually see them on here, but Ever coming in, and then we have Origin and CLG as well, and those are kind of ones that have been taken over from last year, from IM
Yeah.
that was here, I believe, in the U.S. And then the other ones that were invited are SKT T1, TSM Fnatic, and then Royal Give Up, which is China's new team, and they picked up Insec and Mata, so that should be pretty cool to see how they end up doing. And yeah. And then, yeah, I think that's most of what's been going on as far as esports go. Obviously, there's been, I mean, I am Taipei. They also, I think, actually right now are doing some of the StarCraft stuff, but we don't really pay as much attention to that. But good for whoever wins that. Yeah, so that's most of that. I don't know. I guess we can talk a little bit about fantasy if we want. We do a fantasy league, and I guess really what I wanted to this, because it's only LCS, obviously not the Eastern teams, but as far as the top players right now for the split, we have Piglet, we have Wild Turtle, Phoenix, Perks, and Pobelter are the top 5. So 2 of those are from Liquid, and 2 of them are from Immortals. So the crazy thing is that 2 of them are from Liquid, and Liquid is 3-3.
Yeah.
So we have some players on there that obviously are keeping their respective roles, and they're doing well, and obviously they're laning well, and their KDA is good. But the team clearly just isn't meshing as well. And then 2 from Immortals, not really that surprising. Wild Turtle's killing it. And then we have Perks from G2, who is also doing incredibly well over in EU. And as far as this last week, we had Perks for the top points, Phoenix, and Piglet, and then Sencooks, who is the mid laner for Splice. So that's kind of interesting. And then we had Darduck, who is actually the jungler for Liquid. So 3 of the people that scored the best this last week were on Liquid because they had an easier week, right?
Yeah.
So we'll definitely keep an eye on that, I guess, and see how that kind of rounds out as the season goes on. I'm sure that we'll see some good contenders for points on there. So
Points can be kind of misleading too, depending on, you can have a bad game technically and still, I mean, not a bad game, but as a team you can be underperforming, but your players can still be performing extremely well.
right.
And, longer games really just means more points, but longer games doesn't mean your team's
Right.
playing.
Right. Yep. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for esports. If we missed anything, let us know. But so then, just as far as kind of general gaming things go, we have not a lot, but decent amount with MMOs coming into this spring season. We just had Blade and Soul was released over here, and they passed over 1 million players like within a few days of launching, and that's really cool for them. This is a game that's been out in the East since 2012. And so we've played it, not a lot, but we've played it some, and it definitely has some really cool elements. The combat's pretty smooth, and it's kind of fresh. It's not like just sitting there mashing one button over and over. I think that's the best part. It doesn't actually seem as grindy as I kind of expected for an Eastern import, but I feel like they kind of replaced that with the repetitive quests that you would see in traditional MMOs.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, like I said, we haven't played it all that much. So the biggest thing I'm looking forward to actually trying is PvP, and I haven't done that yet. But from what I've watched and read, the PvP seems really solid. So,
Yeah, it's, to me, I'm kind of in the same place with it. I wasn't really impressed by the PvE, not because of the combat, but just the overall feel of it. Like, a big thing for me is if I'm gonna play an MMO and it's PvE, like, it needs to have either the quests need to be slightly interesting, or there needs to be multiple things to do while questing. Like, I don't know. An example of that would be Guild Wars 2 or even Final Fantasy 14. There were like Final Fantasy, you have your hunting logs and other things that you can do to earn experience. Or in Guild Wars, you have your events that you're always doing, so it kind of breaks up the monotony of doing quests.
Right, as well as exploration, and I think that,
Yeah,
and I think
and
that is one of the things that would be
the
cool and more. But
yeah, the Blade and Soul map's pretty basic. I mean, it's you're pretty much just running along a rail the whole time doing your quests. So far,
yeah,
that,
yeah,
you know, that maybe it's different later on. But as far as the combat and the way the game feels, it feels absolutely amazing for an MMO, and I think that would make PvP really fun in that game. And
yeah.
that definitely would be something. I feel like that's where the staying power is in that game, to be honest.
Probably, yeah. And they have a cool ranking system and everything, and I was watching someone do it. It seems really like high risk reward, so I kind of like that as far as combat goes.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. And then also WildStar is going to be coming to Steam, and they're going to be introducing some new stuff with it, with an update called Destination Arctera. So it's going to give a new area, and then some new kind of boss encounters that they're calling snowballing boss encounters, where basically the more players that show up and are killing it, the harder it gets, right? So up to like a 20-man boss encounter. So that's one big thing. And then a Blizzard event, apparently, that pits the two factions against each other. And you can't, so basically whichever faction kills the boss, it's a 20-man boss encounter, kills it, will get the keys, and then they can use those keys to unlock a dungeon for that faction. So that's pretty cool. Some new instances and stuff like that as well. So
like things like that, to me, that's what MMOs need to do more of, in my opinion. Like, just break up the monotony of doing.
Yeah. And then they're also gonna have a new 20-person raid, which is pretty cool, with new mechanics and different things like that.
Yeah.
So that's always cool to see. Honestly, I might check it out again. I haven't really played it a whole lot. I played it for about a week after the free-to-play release. So who knows? Maybe with this update, I'll at least check it out again. I did end up checking out Star Wars: The Old Republic again, because they did a promotional where you get to play the expansion for free. God, the story of that expansion is awesome. It's so good. I loved it so much. Like, playing that, it was like, that's probably the thing I miss the most about that game, is the cinematics and playing along the storyline, because it's really, really well done. But I got out of that, and then I was like, well, okay, what do I do now? Like, I just don't really know what to do with myself in that game anymore. And I'm sure if I had, like, if for some reason they did something crazy and we got a bunch of people to start playing it again, and we did PvP, because that was the main thing that had me going, and then some of the raids as well. But PvP is always something that is kind of up there for me. So
yeah, I mean, for me with Star Wars, it's like you said, like that the story element to that game was absolutely amazing. I really enjoyed the raids in it. I mean, the only reason really we stopped playing was just the lack of content. But I mean, we've talked about that before too, where I personally don't mind paying a sub fee if it means I'm going to constantly have access to new content.
Right.
And I'm always a little wary with games that are like, quote unquote, free to play, but they limit you.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's the one thing that's kind of kept me away from that game. But overall, I actually did really enjoy it.
Yeah. But I think, and then Black Desert Online, they announce the release date? Is that what happened?
Yeah, I believe it was March. Yeah, March 3rd.
Which is my birthday, which is kind of funny, but
that one I'm kind of interested in. That one I really want to check out.
Yeah. And apparently right now you can download their character creator if you pre-order it, I believe.
I think it's I think it's a free.
Is it free? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
I thought they were
free.
saying if you pre-ordered, but so that's kind of interesting.
The pre-purchase, I believe they have like 3 packages, kind of like how Guild Wars 2 did.
Okay.
And the more expensive packages, like the non-basic ones, are what gets you into the next closed beta. That's the big thing.
Okay. Well, yeah, so that's pretty cool. May end up checking that out and seeing what's going on with that. But apart from MMOs, the Division closed beta has happened this last weekend, or this last week. I think it was. It was during the week that it was on console, and then the weekend was PC, I believe.
Yeah.
And the open beta has been announced to be coming later this month, February. So that will be pretty cool. I'm excited to get my hands on it because I've wanted to, and I was after they showed it and all the stuff. I don't know if I was super excited, but I was still like, oh, this is a really cool concept. But after watching some people play it, it seems really, really fun. Like, it seems like something that, although it did seem like they ran out of stuff to do in the beta, but I'm sure that that's because it's pretty limited. But it seems like in the actual game, they're going to be adding, obviously, a lot more content to be able to do on a more regular basis. So.
Yeah, I mean, I got to play the beta a little bit, and from what I saw, all the ideas they have are really, I really liked them because we've played H1Z1 before and Battle Royale and all that, and it even has a lot of elements of that as far as the PvP goes. It's a big open map, and then there's a section of it, a large section. I'd say it's basically like two maps, and the second map is your PvP zone, which. Right. It has like that. I don't really want to compare it to Destiny, but it's kind of like that. It has those MMO elements without really being an MMO, I guess, with the way the loot and everything works. And basically in the PvP zone, it felt a lot like, Battle Royale, except the way it works is you go into the PvP zone, and it's pretty much the same concept as the PvE area. There's still NPCs and stuff you have to kill there, but the further you go in, the more dangerous it gets. And when you loot things there, obviously the further you go in, the better loot you get. And when you get the loot, you have to extract it, which means going back to an extraction zone, which is like, that's where, you can still get shot in extraction zone. So say you get a really nice gun that you want to take. Well, that's when you start getting worried because you've got to get it back to the extraction zone and get it out to be able to use it in the PvE game. Which to me is a really cool concept, and I really like that about it. Honestly, the only thing about the game that worries me is kind of the thing that happened with Destiny again, is like, as PC gamers, we're used to the MMO type of game, and I worry about how well these big companies are going to support their game with content. That's the only thing that worries me. And the beta was very limited. Like, I think it only had one story mission, just one. So you didn't really get to see much as far as single player went. You just got to explore the map a little bit and play around. So I don't know. It looks really good, but it's the type of thing where I'm going to wait and see, once people start getting to the end game, quote unquote, see what they say about it then, because I always kind of feel bad playing a game or paying the $60 for a game and not knowing what I'm going to get at the end of it.
Right. Yeah.
So
I think the biggest thing for me is seeing the PvP zone and seeing how that kind of works, and like getting marked and whatever. Like, it seems like something that you could get into, and like kind of high risk, high reward, where you could go in and decimate a group and take their stuff, and then they could like come back and bite you if you don't get out in time or whatever. So
see that, and I think that's where a lot of the staying power for the game is going to be, and that's something. Like I said, I was glad to see that it seemed really well done, like they had thought it out. It's kind of the same idea I have for that too, though, is once you say you have best in slot everything and you're in the PvP zone, at that point, those people are just going to be going around killing people all the time. And I just want to see the company expand on that as the game gets older. And if they do that, I think that they could have a really successful game.
Yeah. Like, there has to be a way for it to stay balanced. Like, that's always the biggest thing with those PvP heavy and fights between players, is that people will always find something that will bother them about them not being as geared as someone else, So there will have to be some kind of balance for it, for sure. But yeah, I think overall I'm pretty excited to check it out and see what's up with it and get my hands on it. So we also just had the the creator of Braid, Jonathan Blow, has developed this game called The Witness, and it's a puzzle exploration. And it's a really cool concept, and I've been watching it, and it seems like a really cool game. But they're being hit really hard because of pirating. Apparently, it's like the number one pirated game on certain sites, and it kind of sucks for them as a indie developer that they're not making enough money off of it to then make the next game that they want to make, right? So it's a $40, so that's not too bad. But he also said that Braid, which was only $15, was pirated almost as much, like almost just as much. So it's kind of unfortunate to see like these kind of people that are kind of already struggling to make it in an industry like this. Because like Braid did well, and I'm sure that even The Witness has done well, but is it well enough for them to continue making these games? Because people clearly like these games a lot, but if they want them to make more, then like don't pirate them, right? So
Yeah. The whole situation is. I mean, it's. I want to say it's complicated, but it's really not. The whole indie game scene is kind of. It's going to be the way it is for a really long time, because as soon as big companies came into the gaming industry, they've made it to where indie games are either non-profitable for the most part, or they're going to be free. Like the entire idea of a single-player game. Do you know how many hours you can get out of The Witness?
I think from what I understand, I watched a speed run. Kind of funny, but he said at the end that I think he said the typical playthrough is like 7 to 8 hours.
See, any game is gonna have trouble selling anymore if you can only get that many hours out of it, unless it's dirt cheap.
Right.
Because that's how the industry has gotten spoiled now,
Right.
and that's why I mean, like, $40 for 7 hours of gameplay, no matter how good the game is pretty steep. I mean, if you take a step back and you don't look at it, you look at it objectively, not in a way of I'm a gamer and I love games and yes, it was worth the $40. Of course, there's lots of people that say that because they really love what the people did to create this game. It's like, it's in the same respect as if somebody sees art on the wall, somebody who doesn't care about art, it's trash to them. You know what I mean? Like, they don't care, which is people, on the internet are even worse about that. So if they can get it for free, they're gonna do it.
Right.
The only time I see indie developers get around that is people like Warframe. Like, their game's free, so they don't have to worry about that, but they make tons of money off of the content they always release.
Right.
And I just feel like people just do not pay for games anymore unless they're big AAA titles. Yeah. And that's just it sucks, but that's kind of how the market's going to be for a long time.
And the biggest thing is that he just didn't want to make it a DRM because he doesn't like limiting people. Like, so I guess that's kind of almost on them. Like, if they want to make that decision to make it have to require a DRM, sorry, or do they want this to be a consequence? Like, we'll see.
And that's the other shitty part is if you want to make it as a big company, you've got to play the business, which means games. I mean, that's just it doesn't mean you love your consumer any less. It's just at the end of the day, you've got to make money.
Yeah.
So
I think the biggest piece of this game and the reason why people are so interested in it and is because of its like uniqueness and it's not really like anything else out there. It's really, I don't know, it's a really pretty kind of puzzle. I don't know really how to explain it, but there's plenty of videos online if you want to watch it. So, yeah. So I guess that's kind of a big thing for indie developers coming forward is going to be, do they want to benefit their customers by like either lowering the prices or not having DRM, or do they want to help themselves, and maybe, which could be considered selfish by some people, but help themselves, and maybe like at that point you could probably lower the price but put a DRM on it and you would probably make more money, right?
Yeah.
So
it's the entertainment industry. It's like that in music too. I mean, look at any artist that tries to make their way into the big leagues. They have to make a bunch of music and give it away on free CDs in order to get their name out there.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with
SoundCloud, Bandcamp, all that. Yeah. So
and then if they get noticed in a big company, which is what I meant by these AAA, EA and all these guys, like if they notice it and they actually want to put your game out, then you've made it. But until then, it's hard.
Right.
So.
And then also going back to kind of what you were saying about Warframe, about a free game that makes money, kind of transition to the next thing, and that League of Legends was the highest grossing digital game in 2015, and they made over $1.6 billion, which is absolutely insane. Yeah. Like just that number in general is already insane, but then that it's a free game that is what, like, this developer that has come out of nowhere and is just it's just incredible that they've done this well, and it's really cool, honestly.
It's good marketing, man.
Yeah. And I say good for them. Like, they've done a really, really great job. And I think we had it. I don't remember what happened to that though. I sent that image of the top. I think it was like the top 8.
Oh,
and it was like
right.
League of Legends. And then it was that shooter game, I think.
And Dungeon Fighter.
Yeah, Dungeon Fighter Online, and then it was like another game, and then it was World of Warcraft, and so like we see this huge, but even between League of Legends and the game after it, like there was a huge gap in how much money they made. So it's like this is a really big thing for them that they're able to make this much money. And they do a lot of really cool stuff too, like for the community and everything like that, and constant content and everything too. So, and obviously there's going to be people that will say that they don't do enough, but whatever.
Well, yeah, but that's what I was going to say about Riot is you look at them as a company, like there was since day one, once they started charging the amount they did for skins, there was you couldn't go anywhere without hearing people like, oh my god, you pay that much for skins, blah blah. But It was good business. They knew they had this percentage of people that play their game, and then this percentage that are willing to pay money for it. So with those numbers, they knew how much they had to charge to make a profit. And immediately once they started making profit, what did they do? They made LCS. They said, we're not going to rely on anybody else to do our tournaments for us. We're going to bring in all the money from this. And then all of a sudden, I mean, they just exploded. Mm-hmm. And I think the most interesting thing is not even the amount of money they make, but the way League of Legends has earned its name as just being something completely different than even a video game. Like, I mean, you can just say League of Legends and people that don't play video games know what it is. Mm-hmm. And that's really impressive. Like, that, them having the ability to do that is crazy.
Yeah,
like,
it's so widespread, and the esports aspect of it is so widespread too that, like, I can wear my TSM sweatshirt out and probably at least one person is going to be like, oh, like, I know who TSM is at least, or like, hey, or like I'll get a compliment or something like that, or it's super crazy how big of a phenomenon it's become, and how much it's done for the esports scene itself too.
Yep.
So yeah, it's really cool for them, and like we're still. I mean, there's so many people out there playing that game, and especially right now, climbing the ladder just like us. Yeah. Having so much fun.
So much fun.
So much fun. I actually have been having more fun this season than last, so that's good. But as well, we have the Super Bowl winners have been predicted again by Madden
Not the guy.
2016, not the game.
The game.
They do this every year. They simulate the Super Bowl game with their as accurate as can be lineups, and the Panthers are predicted to win, which I don't really think is too much of a surprise.
Not really.
No offense, Denver's fan, but I think I don't know. I don't know how many people actually follow football and gaming, but
if we lose, I won't be that upset. If we get shut out,
right,
I'd be livid.
Because that's what happened last time.
The second Super Bowl in the last 3 years that we just got. I refuse to see that happen again.
Go Seahawks. Yeah. All right. Anyways, so another big thing that's been happening right now is the whole Vine Bros fiasco with YouTube and their React world and their trademarks on React and all this stuff. And today they officially have retracted every attempt at a trademark. They've canceled the React world project. And basically, it just said, "Whoops!" Like, sorry, this was stupid. Because that was not only was it just a dumb idea, like it was just not like a good idea to begin with. They executed it so poorly and explained it so poorly that it caused even more backlash than just the idea itself would have. So it's just a pretty typical example of someone not really knowing the business that they're in even.
Yeah, that was a couple of guys that went to either their attorney or their business manager and said, how can we make the most money with our product? And they said, well, start,
And the thing is, you have these entertainment marketing people that have been, and actually, the reason I'm saying this is because I watched a video from GBay99. If you haven't watch his videos, you definitely should. He's really entertaining and he's just incredibly intelligent. And he explained how these are people that like have marketing degrees and they're good at traditional marketing, but then when it comes to something like YouTube, it's a totally different thing. And you can't expect corporate media marketing, from what you learn about TV networks, you can't expect that to translate over to YouTube because it's totally different. So yeah, this was just a really poorly thought out and executed idea from them, and so they've had they lost hundreds of thousands of subscribers. They got all this backlash, and so they finally decided to not pursue it any farther. So
the thing about that is too, they've injured themselves so much now, except for their real true fans or the people that were just completely out of the loop as to what happened. They pissed off so many people.
Yeah, so I'm kind of glad that that's over with, because that was such a big thing. There was just so much drama surrounding it and everything like that, and then now we don't really have to worry about it. Hopefully we won't have to hear about it as much anymore, so we'll see.
Copyrights will always be hot subjects in the entertainment industry. It's hilarious what we can come up with.
Especially when they say, oh, we want to get away from corporate ideas, and when that's the most corporate thing you can do is have people go through you for their own videos. But yeah, so that's I'm glad that's over. Just put it that way. Yeah. So I think that's gonna be pretty much it for this week. We didn't want to do too much catch up because we would end up talking for
that'd
3
be a
hours.
lot of catch up.
What? A lot of what?
A lot of catch up. No mustard, ketchup? Just a lot of ketchup.
Right. Okay. I mean, I prefer it that way. So.
Well,
I'm not a mustard guy.
A little mayo in there.
Depends on what are we talking about. Burger, hot dog.
A little on a burger. I like mayo on a burger.
Okay. That's fine.
Not on a hot dog.
I was thinking of a hot dog when you said ketchup and mustard. I think hot dog. So it's like mayo on a hot dog.
No.
I don't know about that. All right. Anyways, I'm on sidetrack. So that'll be it for this episode of the ExPack Podcast. If you want to follow us on YouTube, I guess it's called subscribe. Sorry, I just get subscribe on Twitch and YouTube. They're different. But you can follow my Twitch channel and Dalton's Twitch channel. Mine is twitch.tv/spiffyish, and yours is twitch.tv/
Damon.
Damon Bjorn. And I'll put links in the description. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes as well. And we will be back hopefully maybe next week.
Hopefully, maybe.
We'll see. But for now, we're done. So thank you. And
Peace.
What is that? What did that broadcaster used to say? Good night and good luck.